What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. And we are in Dyson Sphere Program again today, but this time we are going to be taking a look at my personal world. So this is the one I started and have been working on since the game came out, basically. So I'd consider it a mid-game level. By no means is it the most efficient factory it could possibly be. I should probably have setups like this all over the planet by now, but it's only the one. I do have some colonies on other planets though, which we will be checking out, but yeah, I really just wanted to make this video while the game was still fresh in order to sort of get people interested and see what sorts of cool things you can do, not even all the way through the game. So without any further ado, let's check it out. So we're starting over here, and this big dish thing that we started on is the collector dish module thing. What is it called? The ray receiver for our fledgling Dyson Sphere, which we will take a look at when the sun comes around. I don't know which side of the planet it's on right now. But yeah, so this collects the energy from what will become our Dyson Sphere. Currently it takes more power to keep this thing running than it generates, so I clearly need to get working on more solar sail modules, but in any case, it's cool to look at, and I just had to place it down just to say that I did. And flanking it on either side, coming out of this assembler module, we have our solar sails. So these are the individual solar panels that will make up the swarm around the sun and will eventually become our Dyson Sphere. And it's feeding into these two large railgun modules that take each solar sail and literally just shoot them towards the sun.
So basically, what I was thinking of was,
where they fall into orbit and form a sort of ring around the sun, which is the first step in forging a Dyson Sphere. Take a shot every time I say Dyson Sphere in this video. But yeah, so that's what those are for. There's no enemies in this game. They're strictly for launching our solar panel modules into orbit around the sun. And the rest of this mess that you see behind me is all of the factory and means by which we produce those solar panels, as well as our research. Oh, there's the sun. You can see got the ring of sort of dust around the sun. And what's cool about this game is literally each one of those dots, it's not just filler. Each one of those dots is actually one solar panel that has been launched by these two guns here, which is really cool. And we can take a closer look at it here. So you can see we're only generating 12 megawatts, which really isn't that much. And we have 423 of these little solar sails in orbit, and you can see more coming in from the guns in real time, which I think is fantastic. The people that make this game, they're geniuses. But yeah, so that's the start of my first Dyson Sphere. It's not very far along by any means, but it's so satisfying nonetheless, because it takes so much work to get this far. At least it did for me. Maybe I'm just an idiot, but that's highly likely. But anywho, so since our Dyson Sphere isn't currently up to generating capacity yet, we generate our power here. This is all of the power infrastructure for all three of my planetary colonies. It's just these three nuclear power plants right here. And the way these work is you just manufacture these little deuterium fuel cells here, and they burn them super slowly, so it's super easy to keep up with demand if you have one of these setups. So these produce our deuterium, and all I can think of when I look at them is Mario Kart Baby Park if it went through a freaking nuclear power plant. Look at them go. Look at all that hydrogen. So the way this works is hydrogen gets ripped through these things super fast, and every single time a hydrogen goes through it, there's a 0.5% chance that hydrogen will then become a deuterium instead. And since it's such a low chance, we have 4 of these modules set up, and that is what produces our deuterium for our nuclear power plant. And the hydrogen is being shipped in from this mushroom-looking thing, which is a logistics plant module thing. So this isn't a interplanetary one, so it's smaller. It just sends out these little Dorito-shaped drones that bring resources back and forth from our actual space elevators and any other modules like this one. So you can see this one's bringing in hydrogen, and I'll show you where we're getting that hydrogen later on. We have titanium ingots, which are coming in from one of our planetary colonies because titanium doesn't generate on the starting planet. So I'll show you where that comes from as well. And then we have these yellow structure matrices, which are manufactured in the North Pole of this planet. And we use those for research. You can see a line of them coming out here to go to our research labs. So I'm going to go super in-depth in this video. Feel free to skip around to stuff that looks interesting. I wouldn't blame you, but I promise there's some really, really cool stuff in here, and later on in the video there's some awesome stuff that I want to show you, and I'm really excited to show off, because man, this game, the scope is ridiculous. But yeah, so here in this little corner we are producing computer chips, basically. And I don't have a lot of them because production is super slow right now, because currently we are getting our silicone on world. So silicon also doesn't generate on the starting planet, so you have to get it from smelting down just rocks.
What's in these bags? Rocks? Hey.
And it takes forever, and it takes a lot of rocks, so silicon production is very slow right now. And but there is a solution on the horizon again. This world is very much in a transitional phase, so again, I'll show you where we will be getting the silicon in the future. And then over here, we have motors and turbines, pretty basic stuff, just uses your standard components here, and pumps those out, which are used ultimately to make these crazy things. What do we got? Particle containers and supermagnetic rings. So these are used to make all sorts of things, like the magnetic rings are also components in our deuterium fuel cells, and they're used to make batteries, which are important in a contraption I'll show you later. And they're also necessary for making interplanetary logistics vessels, so cargo spaceships, which is awesome, and we'll be seeing some of those later as well. And back here we have production of our first type of matrix, the electromagnetic matrix, which just uses super basic components, so we have cranked those out non-stop, and we have plenty of them. You can see the blue line here. So yeah, those are no problem. We have plenty of those, more than we'll probably need for a long time. And over here we get to the sort of things you see in my first video, just on a larger scale. We're producing these basic components that almost everything needs. We got circuit boards, gears, and magnetic rings. And these assemblers are different colors just because they're a higher level, so they produce faster. That's all that means. I don't have one on the gears just because nothing really uses those. And so these are getting supplied by these conveyors over here. Never mind the spaghetti mess. Again, a lot of work to do on this world, but I'm loving it. So ultimately, it comes from here. We have our iron coming in and our magnets, and from this other direction we have our copper. So the three basic components you saw in my first video. And those are coming in straight from the forges, which are just pumping them out non-stop. We also have steel here, which is another sort of mid-game component. Basically, you just smelt iron ingots twice, and you get steel. And that's being shipped off to worlds unknown to be used for all kinds of stuff. And the iron itself is coming from this largely depleted, but still going strong, iron vein, and these two very loud mining modules. I hope you can still hear me over that. So yeah, that's that. That's our iron production line, sort of. And then over here by itself we have some coal. We used to be using coal for power. The entire south pole of the planet was covered in fossil fuel generators. But ever since the switch to nuclear, we are just using coal for production now. It's put into these energetic graphite, which, what are these being used for? Oh, they go into the super magnetic rings. And yeah, so that's just chilling over here. Steel goes over there to make high strength titanium. It just loops back and forth because I had it going this way originally. And copper, same sort of deal as the iron over here, except we only make copper ingots, so there's a lot less in terms of furnaces and storage, but we do have more than enough of those, and this copper mine has been chugging away this whole time. And now we get to the super tall stuff. So this is our research labs, and as you can see, they're being supplied with 3 of the 5 types of matrices right now. We have electromagnetic, what are the red ones again? Energy, and structure matrices, which are being, well, they're not right now because they're not researching anything, which is probably not good, but they will be shoved in there to churn out research for us whenever the time comes. And these red cubes, the I forgot already, energy matrices, are being produced over here. They use hydrogen and more of that energized graphite. And where the hydrogen comes from, I haven't made the switch to the same system that the deuterium production is on. The hydrogen is coming from this oil refinery here, which is also outputting some refined petroleum every once in a while. And Samsung over here got coal being turned into energized graphite, probably way more than we need, but that's okay. And that's just going straight into the matrix production, and again, we have more than we'll need for a long time. And back here is sort of a mess. We have all kinds of stuff going on. So over here we have some chemical facilities. One's producing sulfuric acid. Which is an important component in this, which is graphene. This is a mid-game component used for all kinds of stuff. It's very important in spacecraft and batteries and all sorts of fun stuff that we'll be seeing later. Got more coal production there. Sucking water out of the ocean over here to be turned into acid. And then over in this corner we have our quarries, which are churning away and producing glass and raw stone to be turned into silicon for those chips we saw earlier, and these silicon crystals, which are important for batteries and other things like that. I don't have a facility producing bricks at the moment, but that's just because I gathered up so many of them early in the game that I haven't had to yet. So that'll probably be changing in the future. Like I said, very much a transitional phase. That's why there's so many gaps and it's all a mess. But I just wanted to get this video out while the game was still fresh and you know, show off what I've done so far. So that about does it for over on this side of the planet, but there's a lot more to see, I promise. Yeah, let's just take a look at this from orbit because I think it looks super cool. You can see the glowing lines from our matrices going to our research labs. Got that logistics module here pumping out hydrogen. And then, they just shut off, but these guns are the ones we saw at the beginning, firing the solar sails into the orbit of the sun. So yeah, that's my main production facility, but there's, as you can see, there's still some more to see. So let's go up to the North Pole real quick. So we have our power lines coming up here, feeding in power from those nuclear facilities we saw. And there's a lot of loud stuff up here. But a lot of it's stuff we've seen before, just doing different things. So we have 2 more oil refineries, and the main purpose of those is producing petroleum for plastic production and organic crystal production. So these are an important component in those yellow structure matrix cubes we saw. So they need plastic and petroleum, and that becomes organic crystals, which are themselves a component in titanium crystals. So those organic crystals are combined with titanium ingots, which are being shipped in from over here, and they become titanium crystals. I really need to up production on those because our yellow cube production is really slow right now. But all of this needs to be ripped out and fixed anyway. And those oil refineries are also producing hydrogen just like before, and that's just being burned off in these two fossil fuel plants because I have no other use for it right now. Because as you'll see later, we have literally an infinite amount of hydrogen coming in. And the last thing up here, before we get to the interesting stuff on the horizon up there, is just some more coal, which is being turned into the energetic graphite again, but this time it's being cooked a second time to be turned into diamonds, which are the other component in these yellow structure matrices. So we've got titanium crystals and diamonds. And these yellow structure matrices come out here, go on this really unnecessarily long and inefficient conveyor belt, and into this, which is a much bigger version of that logistics module we saw earlier, because it is a interplanetary logistics module. So as you can see, we got the Dorito drones flying in here, but we also have these, right on cue, cargo freighters, which are flying supplies off to our second planetary colony, which we will be visiting shortly. Up here we just have some hydrogen fuel cells. That's basically the best fuel type I've found in the game, although I haven't tried using deuterium in the mech, but that remains to be seen whether that can be done. And then finally, this big weird looking thing is really just like a charging dock for batteries, which I said we would be getting to. So the way this works is ships come in from my other planet and bring in these empty batteries, these empty accumulators they're called, and they come out this port here. I don't know if you can see that. Go into this shipping container just for the sake of capacity, and then immediately come out again and go into this machine, which pulls power straight from the grid and charges them up. And then they go back into the space elevator to be shipped back to the planet they came from. As you can see, we have some in here already. And the reason for that, I'm sure you can understand, is to provide power to other planets that aren't generating it themselves. So when we take a visit to our other planetary colonies, I'll explain that a little more. But let's say I switched power production to another planet and wanted to bring batteries here, then you can just change this mode to discharge, and any charged batteries that go into it will be discharged to provide power for the grid here. So I'm going to switch that back. And now, since it takes a little bit, I'm going to do a jump cut here. We're going to take a ride to our second planet, which is conveniently right in the background there. So the one we're on now is called Menkar 2, and it is a moon orbiting Menkar 1, which is a gas giant. So it's not far, just a hop, skip, and a jump. You know what, maybe I'll fly there just so you can see what it's like, and I'll probably crash horribly or something. But so the batteries aren't going here, but there is something very important on this planet that I want to show you, and it's super cool. So just take off nice and easy there. I love it. So satisfying. The flying takes a bit, or at least it took a bit for me to get used to, but that's no fault of the game's. So here we go. Sort of fly into our planet here. The planet is deceptively small, although it's much larger than the planet we were just on, and as you can see from the map in the lower left, it's very barren. But I promise there's something on the planet, I just have to find it. There it is. So, off the bat, this looks very similar to the logistics station we saw on Earth, not on Earth, Menkar 2. because it is very similar. But the difference with this one is it has a sole purpose of accumulating and producing the hydrogen which it is pulling from the planet's surface. So it's basically just giant vacuum cleaner.
You drunk all the fucking milk, man. Give me my goddamn milk back. Give me my milk back.
Sucking up the planet's atmosphere and shipping it off to wherever we need hydrogen. So as you can see, it's producing this. It's producing hydrogen, as well as this hot or fire ice, which I don't really know what to use for yet. It says it's a fuel source, but yeah, I haven't really looked into that yet. But yeah, I love this thing. I think it looks super cool. I wish it was daytime so I could really show it to you, but you can see it sort of pulling the atmosphere into itself. And the cool thing about that is it doesn't need to be supplied with power like your other stations do, because it immediately burns a fraction of the hydrogen it collects to power itself. So this is just floating here on the it's exactly on the equator of the gas giant, and those cargo vessels we saw earlier will stop by here every once in a while to keep our deuterium production on Menkar 1 topped up. So that's that. And yeah, so now I'm definitely going to do a jump cut because we have to fly super far this time. We're going to go from our home system here of Menkar 1 and Menkar 2, and we're going to fly to the next door neighbor in our solar system, Menkar 3, which you can see. I don't know if you can see it or not. There's this logistics vessel flying there now, so we'll go try and catch up to it. Okay, so here we are on the surface of Menkar 3, and as you can see, a much smaller scale setup because there's not as much being done here. But much like the iron and copper on our home planet, we are digging up this titanium ore here, which occurs naturally on this planet. It's why we're here. And it's being forged into these ingots in the furnaces here and pumped straight into another one of these interplanetary logistics modules. So we have tons and tons of it, 10,000 stored up in here. And on the other side, we have silicone, or I keep saying that, silicon, which is used for the chips and the batteries we saw on our home planet. And it's being forged into two things. We have silicon ingots here and silicon crystals. So what remains to be done is having these shipped to a logistics center on the home planet. The problem is the one I have set up already has all of its shipping slots filled, so I'll have to build another one somewhere else. So yeah, we're just waiting on shipping those out, but for now they're just being stored in here. We have 6,000 of each just about. And the only other thing on this planet is another one of these power converter modules. So this is taking those batteries, you can see some here, that we got from our home planet. They were charged up from the excess power on that grid by an identical machine. The ships brought them here. They're in storage, these charged ones, and they are, whenever the machine needs one, they are pumped out here and discharged to power everything on this planet. So I know that's not very much, but in the future it will be, and we won't have to worry about producing our own power, because before it was a logistical nightmare. We had ships flying in and out carrying coal, and it was just being poured out into the like scores of thermal power plants because this thing draws so much power, and it was a struggle to keep it powered enough to have ships coming in to refuel it. But now we don't have to worry about that because we have our energy exchangers, which is such a satisfying feeling when you don't have to worry about power on other planets anymore. You can just throw down one of these, chuck in more batteries into the system, and let your cargo ships handle it. But yeah, with that is a complete tour of my sort of mid-game world, galaxy, solar system in this game. It's such a great game. It's so deep, and I'm not even like, you can look at the research tree, I still have a lot to do, and there's all kinds of crazy stuff that I haven't even looked at yet. Like we have rockets and building artificial stars and building frames around our Dyson spheres, and beyond that, we can leave this solar system and travel to one of the, I'd say about 100 others, and build more Dyson spheres there. So clearly this game has such a massive scope to it, and I haven't even begun to scratch the surface. But yeah, with that said, hopefully you guys will join me in my up and coming series with this game. I started it yesterday. Whether it's going to be focused on tutorial stuff or let's play stuff, I'm not sure. I'm sure you can learn stuff if you wanted to from those videos, but I'm not going to emphasize the tutorial nature of them. But if you do want to see how I did this and watch the sort of thought process of how you set up networks like this and get started in this game, then go ahead and give that first episode a watch, and I'll have the second out as soon as I can, because I love looking for excuses to play this game. But yeah, with that, ladies and gentlemen, I will talk to you all again soon with more of this game, and thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.